Welcome to another kayaking tips video. This is going to be a short one with 5 tips of things that have worked for me when it comes to kayaking with a drone. So this topic comes up often of how to take a drone with you when you're kayaking. How do you pack it? How do you ensure it's waterproof? I've shared little tips here and there over the last couple of years with different drones I've used, but I thought I'd consolidate them all into a short video and talk about them one by one. First one that comes up all the time is packing. How to keep it safe inside your kayak, how to keep it waterproof. And when I used to have a DJI Phantom, that was a lot harder because it was much bigger, and within my hatch I actually padded out the hatch in the right places so that whenever I would place it in the hatch it wouldn't get knocked around a lot. And then I would put it into a 50-liter dry bag, and I didn't trust it completely, but that was the best I could do at a time because of the size of the drone as well as the size of my hatch. And since switching to the DJI Mavic, it's just incredible just how small this one folds, and it's easy to pack foam out and then fit it into different dry bags depending on your preferences and where you want to pack them inside your kayak. The same thing goes for the Spark. That's even smaller and easier to take with you. It's up to you depending on the drone you're using. What has worked for me the best is I have found this photography sleeve, and what it is a foamed up box that you can use to store lenses, camera bodies, and other things inside of your backpack, just the right size to fit perfectly all the way at the bottom. And then I'm able to put the controller and 2 batteries along with it, as well as the propellers and any other things I want to take with me. And then this fits perfectly inside a 10-liter dry bag. And I like knowing that it's all in one single location. I understand that both dry bags and hatches can't fail, but I try to just take as many precautions as I can. So if I know conditions are going to be nice all day and there's a very good chance it's going to be calm, I just put it in one dry bag, I put it in my hatch, and then hope for the best. So if I know conditions are going to be a little rougher, or I know the weather is probably going to turn for the worse later in the day, then I'll probably double bag it and put it in the hatch. For example, let's say we're going surfing. I'm not going to keep the drone in my hatch the entire day while we're surfing. I think that could really hurt it taking some of those hits. So what I'll probably do is double bag it, put it in the hatch, and then once we get to the location we're probably going to be hanging out at, I take it out, leave it on the shore, and then play with the kayak without it in there. The second thing I want to talk about is planning your shots and keeping your flights short. And what I've learned over the years is, in the beginning, I used to think, okay, I have a certain amount of time for each battery, I better get up there and try to get as many shots as I can, lots of different angles. I might have 20-30 minutes worth of footage, and then I wind up using only maybe a minute or 2 at most. I now know the things I like to shoot. Usually in the first 3 to 4 minutes, I get all the shots I want, and this will vary from person to person. I like doing establishing shots or just bird-eye views, or a couple of different angles that will contrast with either a handheld camera or, let's say, a GoPro mounted on the kayak. So that means I don't need a lot of time or a lot of footage to make that work into a video I'm shooting. Sometimes with just 2 or 3 minutes of flight time, if I get those couple of shots I like, I'm good. That ties into the next topic, and that is launching. If you're launching from the shore, if you're launching from the water, or let's say you paddle in rivers or a whitewater kayaker, it's going to come down to where are good locations for you to launch from. And that also will tie into, do you paddle ahead and then wait for something to happen? Do you only shoot whenever you're launching and landing, or maybe just having a break for the day while you're having some food? Or another thing I've been trying is launching from the water and seeing if the drone can actually follow us while we're in the middle of doing something. I find that I launch mostly from the shore. That's usually the easiest thing for me to do, so that's before we paddle, after we paddle, or during breaks in the middle. I think whitewater kayakers will do the same thing. They'll find a good location, or let's say a waterfall, and then they'll get ready and they'll capture that particular thing. So I think that works really well whenever you're storytelling, because then you're able to use action cameras while you're actually paddling, and then use the drone for establishing shots showing where you're going, where you're launching from, where you're landing, and you can show progression throughout your trip. When launching from the water, that's a lot more risky because 1, you have to have it in a location that is easily accessible. 2, because it's easily accessible, a lot of times it's more prone to getting wet if conditions are not the best. And 3, you have to be very careful about how you launch, how you land, and there's a lot of things you have to think about. For example, with the Mavic, when it launches, it records that location as your home point. So if for some reason you lose connection with the drone or something happens, the drone is going to return to that exact spot from where you launched, unless you turn a setting on which makes your controller its home location all the time. So that's something you need to think about ahead of time. So that means you need to remember exactly where it launched, because that's where the drone is going to go to. And believe me, it'll be a lot faster than you kayaking to get back to that place. And also remember that as the drone comes down, it's not going to account for the movement within either current or if waves are knocking you around. So all of this has to come into play if you're thinking about launching from and landing on your kayak. When we were visiting Lars in Norway, he was kind enough to take us out on his motorboat. He was very skilled at keeping the boat stationary so that I was able to launch and land it. But I have to tell you, those 2 flights have been the closest I've thought, okay, there's a very good chance I am losing my drone on this flight. The next thing I want to talk about, which connects to the last thing, and that is hand launching and catching. I definitely do not recommend hand launching or hand catching. I have gotten hurt. I've read many accounts of people that have gotten hurt. I've gotten messages of people telling me not to do it. So I try very much to launch from the ground or from a flat surface every time I can. But if I have to hand launch and catch, I've done a couple of things that have been a little safer for me, so I just wanted to share those ideas with you. Phantom was a lot easier because it has a big set of landing gear on the bottom. It's far away from the propeller, so as long as it's hovering in a place without moving, you could easily grab it, hold on to it firmly, and the risk of your hands getting anywhere near those propellers were a lot lower. I have been launching and catching the Mavic for a while with my hands. I got too confident, and at one point I wasn't thinking about the catch, and I went to get it, and as I grabbed it, my pinky finger went a little bit too high and the propeller caught the very tip of it. And trust me, very quickly I realized how much worse it could have been. So with the help of other Mavic flyers that recommended a couple of different options, I went with a landing gear extension set that has proven to be very, very helpful at doing just that. This one clips into place in the back. I made a video about it, but I wanted to consolidate it into this video here. And that way, when it's attached, I'm able to hold it from further away, and I am now inches away from those propellers. And don't get me wrong, it is still dangerous, but it's nowhere as dangerous as it was for me trying to hold it from the body. So I'll post a link below to the one that I use, and you can look around, see if there's anything else that might work better for you. Now, the last one I want to talk about, and I think it might be the most important, and that's flying safely and respectfully with other people. As drones become more and more popular, and I know I should be calling them quadcopters, but really I believe these are technically drones because they are becoming more and more advanced. They're able to fly autonomously, so I think it's okay for us to call them drones. But as they become more popular and more available to the masses, you know that there's always going to be idiots out there that are ruining it for the rest of us. So I ask that if you're watching this, please help me show people that these can be used in a safe and proper manner. I've converted several people that used to be very much against drones. For example, I have a friend, he's a rock climber, and whenever he would go rock climbing, every so often a drone would come out and start filming them while they were doing their thing. The last thing they needed was a drone unannounced flying around and taking away their focus. Now, my friend is part of a group, and it was during a festival, and we were discussing the possibility of maybe flying the drone, and so I told him all of the different measures that I take to fly. He realized that if it's done safely and if it's done respectfully, it can be a really great tool, not only for making videos that are beautiful, but also for teaching and for learning. The things we went through was, first, every person in that group was told ahead of time and was asked if they were okay with me flying the drone above them as we were going to do a demonstration. And I had a spotter, that's a second set of eyes, keeping an eye on the drone the entire time, so that even though when you're flying you should always have line of sight, every so often you're looking at the screen as you're trying to get a shot. So I had someone else making sure that I wasn't doing anything silly or stupid while I was focusing on the screen, taking the shot that I wanted. The other thing I do is, and that's one of the things that is nice about being a kayaker, is I usually fly it above water. I never fly above anybody's property. I try to stay away from groups, I try to stay away from people, or there's no one really below me unless they know ahead of time, or it's the people that I'm trying to capture. I never try to invade on anybody else's privacy. And the same goes with a lot of places that you're just not allowed to fly. When we were in Norway, I flew the Mavic 4 to 10 times a day, depending on the different locations we went to. I never flew it anytime there was a crowd. We were at a waterfall that is an absolutely beautiful touristic spot, and I had my little handheld camera with me, and then some idiot jumps out almost in front of the waterfall and starts flying his Mavic at top speed, flying around, zooming around, over people's head, and I thought, see, that is the idiot that ruins it for the rest of us. Help me spread the word of flying safely and flying in a respectful manner so that we can continue doing this without more restrictions. So that's all I have for this one. If you have anything to add, please comment below. I'd love to hear it. Or if you have any questions or want to follow up on anything, please comment as well. That way we can have a discussion. I'll also be adding links below to all the items that I was talking about. I hope that was helpful. Please subscribe if you like. I'm always trying to put these videos out. And as always, Luke Roller for Kayak Hipster. Thank you for watching. See you next time.